Welcome to the Way She Leads podcast, where we integrate strategy, intuition, and real life leadership so that you can create impact with more joy and ease without pushing, proving, or burning yourself out. Hi, I'm Megan Akatu, former corporate leader turned transformational coach, and I help women feel fully alive in their purpose in a way that ripples out through every area of their lives. If you've ever felt like there is a better way, you are not wrong and you are not alone. Each episode brings you conversations with experts and real leaders sharing tangible and holistic practices to help you lead your life in a way that actually feels good, not just looks good on paper. Welcome in. Hi, today I am here with Kelly Ferraro, the founder of Ferraro Growth Partners, and I am so excited to have Kelly on the podcast today. Kelly is someone that has walked the line of some really big corporate careers, left Meta to go start her own company, went to Whole Foods, left there to be a founder again. And she is funny. She's very real. She's not afraid to be herself. And I think you will just get so much out of hearing her story. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Megan. I'm so excited to be here. And in typical Megan fashion, you forgot to brag about how amazing you are. I'm lucky to be in your presence, and people who've worked with you are so lucky to have worked with you. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have so much fun. Do you want to give us more about your background and how you became the Kelly of today?
Gosh, such a loaded question. Well, first, we should talk about how we know each other, because you knew a different version of me. So
Yes.
We actually know each other because Megan's husband was one of my first friends in law school. And Bernard and I met because we were both the only people who were both late for our civil procedure class and did not do our assignments. And so we were cramming in the cafeteria of the law school, and we looked up at each other from across the room with this like very guilty smile. So somehow later that led us to each other.
Do you know why that is so funny?
Why?
Okay, so Bernard and I met in class as undergrads, and we were also both late every time. And that is how we noticed each other, because we were like the two people who walked in like 3 minutes late every single day.
So now you know everything there is to know about me. As it would turn out, I was not intended to be a lawyer. Being late for court and being last minute and being unorganized are not great qualities for a successful attorney, as it turns out. Yeah, so what do I want to say about myself? So actually, I quit law and I worked at Lululemon. I hocked yoga pants, and I learned about this body of work that's now called Lightyear, which is personal development and leadership coaching. And this body of work has always been like this program running in the background throughout my career. So from Lululemon, I went on to work at Ogilvy and had a whole career in advertising, from DC to New York. Then I worked in tech at a SaaS startup called Spreadfast, later became Khoros, and then Meta for 4 years, where I headed up a team of independent agency representatives. After that, took some time off, as you said, went to Whole Foods, and now here I am. But this script of coaching has always been running in the background, and starting with vision and purpose and goals has always grounded me. And that's been the through line in all of those careers. And I was successful in my version of success, at least in those careers, and by other definitions and standards too, monetarily, because I used those principles of vision setting, manifestation, goal setting, accountability. So yeah, now I'm doing that with women founders and with women who are in transition, typically mothers who are navigating ambition, career, and motherhood, and trying to find new purpose. So that's what I'm up to now.
Thank you. And that was one of the things that I had actually meant to say in the introduction. To me, you have never shied away from being very vocal about being a mom, about taking your career seriously and being a mom, and speaking up for moms' rights and women's rights within the workplace. Is that something that always came natural to you, or is that something that you developed over time?
I think some of us are maybe born with a tendency to be outspoken, and there's a very short distance between my gut, my heart, and my throat. Some may call it lack of a filter.
Love
or
this.
ADHD. So just the world would call it ADHD. Human design would call it having defined channels of the throat, heart, all these things, right, and the gut. I've always been outspoken, and in fact, I remember I have a very early memory. Maybe my earliest memory of this was 10. And I was on the bus and I was in a new school. And there was another 10-year-old boy who was bullying a girl on the bus and calling her flat chested. And I just marched up to him and I read him the riot act about puberty and how bodies develop and how girls at age 10 are not supposed to have chests, and mortified him, like to the point of tears. He just was red faced and tears. And then she became one of my best friends. So yeah, I think this maybe has always been inside of me. What a great question.
That is a fabulous, fabulous story. And going back to your career transitions, because you have worked at a lot of very impressive places and then have made some very risky, significant, maybe very scary moves, changes. So what did you believe to be true about you, about the world at the time that you were making a lot of those significant changes? And what did you learn? Because I think a lot of people will relate to you wanting to show up really powerful in the workforce and doing that, for a number of years. And then at some point saying, you know what, this is no longer meant for me.
This is when we might have to unpack for a few minutes. We might have to spend a little
go for it. Take your time.
What did I know to be true? So one, I'm not alone. And the first time I quit, I wasn't the spearheader of quitting by any means. I was part of a huge loss in the workforce of middle manager mothers who quit during or just after the pandemic, probably for a slew of reasons. I imagined the reasons that I was feeling like your mental health was strapped. You're trying to do too much, especially with younger children, daycare age children, daycare's closed. And then RTO was another reason. And the RTO wave is still happening. And so even today, there's stats from Upwork that say among companies mandating RTO, 63% of C-suite leaders report that this has led to a disproportionate amount of women quitting.
Yes, thank you.
I did my homework this time, not like in law school. But this is fun. So I think that one, I wasn't alone in it and I was no means different, which means that there's an audience that can resonate for this. There's a lot of women who can understand this problem, especially mothers who are managers. You have to manage yourself, children, and other people, and there's no time. And the way that showed up for me would have been either not taking time for self-care and it's spilling out in other ways, or it looked like squishing myself into these little tiny margins of my day. And I joked with a therapist at the time that, I only existed in the dark in my garage on my spin bike between the hours of 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. And if I didn't get that, then I didn't exist that day. And like, how sad is that? How sad that my most alive was in the dark garage sweating.
And I would also offer, how great is it that you knew that you had to do that in order to best support yourself? Because I think some people weren't even doing that.
Yes, for sure. Right. Call it compensatory strategy, call it fuel at its best. But I knew I needed that in my life. So I wasn't alone. I had systems for fuel, for compensatory strategies, whatever you want to call it. What I believe to be true is how my body responded to the systems around me. I don't think my body ever responded negatively, now that I can remember, in corporate systems. No, that's not true. I probably overworked myself before kids, and that was how I got up the ladder. And that's much harder to do. It's much harder to succeed when you add kids to the equations. What did I know to be true? I mean, I was eyes wide open since I had my kids and had my son in 2016, after a loss in 2015. But I became a mom in 2016, and I was in the corporate world in these leadership positions at a huge company. So by 2017, I was at Meta, and I was there for 4 years with a newborn and a 2-year-old up until my daughter was about 4. And if I had to name the inequities, which was that the systems that work for men just don't work for women, and they especially don't work for mothers and parents. And there's so many ways you can talk about it. Like, we are in an agrarian society, and the school calendar was built for families that needed the summers off so they could farm and put their kids to work. And what was happening then? Well, in the 90s, moms didn't work, right? And then in the 60s and 70s, we went to work. And the school calendar and the breaks are what they are. My neighbor, Molly Morse, also happens to be the co-founder of Recess with her partner, Amy Kiska. And they're building a tool that helps support parents with what they call wraparound care. And she shared some stats on LinkedIn recently, and it was in 60% of dual parent households, both parents work. And in 46% of the weekdays in a year, school is closed. That's 120 days a year. So apart from all of the systems of work that just naturally don't work for women, they really don't work for parents. And when RTO was announced, both times at Meta, RTO because of the pandemic happened a bit earlier. At Whole Foods, RTO came a bit later in around 2024. When it was announced, and then my body had to go fit into this mold again as a mother with school-aged children and a school calendar to manage, the math didn't math. Right? The mental math didn't math. And in addition to the system not working from a schedule, there's also the microaggressions, like you're leaving the office early. And I didn't really experience a lot of that because they knew that I was online. But then there's the microaggression of the self-shaming. I'm leaving early and I'm putting another layer on top of the mental load that I'm carrying. I now have to feel weighted with this guilt and shame that I'm placing on myself for taking care of my children, absent care that the system did not provide.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not trying to blame the systems.
Yes.
Right. I want to hear that. I don't blame the systems. It's that I identified that my body was not happy within it because my value, I have a strong value towards family and motherhood, and I don't outsource things. I don't outsource my children. I cook dinner for them. I put them to bed. I'm not willing to sacrifice those things I grew up with for success and money. And so I'm not blaming the systems because there are women who can work inside those systems and hire the care that they need and the support and, have the laundry folders come in and fold the laundry and clean the house. And I do a lot of those things still. So I hope that got somewhere in your question. So that's what was going on with me. It was like conflict. Truly just conflict.
Well, one, I want to even just good job even having that awareness to say this isn't working for me. I can tell in my body that this is not working. I think that's so important to be attuned to that. And as someone who has benefited from being at your house for meals, what I remember about it, it was simple, but it was also beautiful. The dishes are pretty, butter's in a sweet little dish, the salad's in a beautiful bowl. There is a very beautiful sense of coziness and hominess when you are making food for your family.
Thank you. I love that you noticed that. I love to cook. I don't find it disempowering. I love working with my hands. I love cooking from scratch. If you come to my house, you'll see tons of pasta cookbooks and all the pizza making equipment. I love it. I really do. And I love having time to make a nourishing meal with a lot of fresh elements in it that doesn't feel rushed. I really love it.
Yes. Well, and as someone who also loves to cook, I think that's how I realized I was a creative person in general, was through this expression of just putting ingredients together and then making something different. It's almost like I didn't realize that until I realized my love of cooking. So it's also a huge connector for me as well.
It's so funny you said that. I'm giving language to it recently as well. We had a couple over, these two women on Saturday night, and I made homemade pizza and pasta for them. And they're both creatives. And somewhere in the conversation after glasses of wine, our friend Isadora said, well, what do you do creatively? And I was like, it struck me creatively. And immediately my brain wanted to file into I write on Substack sometimes. And she's like, because it strikes me that cooking is your creativity. And I thought, that I am very happy cooking, and that if I'm allowed to say that and I get to be a creative and be a cook and embrace that identity, I'm here for it.
I love that. I love that so much. All right. So you were talking about the agrarian calendar. What other, let's say, dynamics, systems exist that you find to be most challenging for high achieving women, for moms? What else have you seen in your time?
Honestly, one of my least favorite interview questions is, tell me what your average day looks like. And that question alone, right, unpacks so much of the differences between a man and a woman. Elisa Vitti writes about this in The Flow, and how productivity systems are designed for the male 24-hour testosterone cycle, and women exist in a lunar cycle. And there's 4 distinct productivity sections, and it's a 30-day cycle. And I would add that mothers exist also in an annual rhythm because of the school calendar. And if you look at the difference between a day and a year, or a day and even 30 days, that is a stark difference. So my to-do list and my tasks on any given day may not get done because, by the way, there's a curveball and my kid forgot their screen-free ditto week and I had to go bring the dittos to the school and complete it with them or they wouldn't go to the celebration. And once again, my kid forgot his folder. Oh, and by the way, there's a school dance. And can I volunteer last minute for picture day? Like, there's just no, that's a different conversation around boundaries, right? But there's so many rhythms inside the workday that exist for the male testosterone, which is like the daily huddle and like this, get it done, guys, and check it off the list and get that endorphin release. And trust me, I'm type A and competitive. I love a good checklist and hitting the box. But those hitting of the marks can feel damning. And it's just another thing, another uncontrollable that you just might not get done because of an X factor. And so if I start my daily huddle and I am the only mother, and there's a lot of men or single people without kids, they have so many less X factors in their day. They can control for the controllables, and I just can't. And even without a parent, my body rhythm might not just be up to the task at hand that day. I might be more productive in a week, or I might not want to speak or sell when I'm on my period. And that should be okay. But we're expected to perform inside these rhythms that are just not built for our bodies and certainly not for motherhood.
Yeah. There's more and more African nations that are providing a Mother's Day, which is basically the first day or two of your period. And it's not specific to mothers. If you just need a day once a month, you get to take the day because you just want to be in bed.
And maybe those quitting stats would actually not be so high because when I'm on my period and I have to deal with men, here's the day I will quit. Put me in line with a toxic male on my period and you will not see me.
Before I met you, I worked at a startup out in Tysons. I was only there 9 months maybe. We had a 7:30 a.m. morning huddle, and I was on the sales side, on the revenue generation side. And in a startup, that's a really important part, right? Because that's cash flow. And we had to announce in a group every sales appointment we had that day, what clients we were meeting with, and they would all get written up on the board. And then the manager would then just pick someone for the day, like, Megan, I'm going out with you today, right? Kevin, I'm going out with you today. And I think it was kind of known that it was 50% real appointments and 50% fake. But because everyone was doing that, then everyone felt like they needed to do that. And it was so stressful. I think about that now and I'm like, why? Why? Why was I doing that? It seems insane.
Fake competing, fake numbers.
Yes. For what? I'm also going to back us up again. Let's talk about Ella. Can we go back to your first pregnancy?
This is an important part of the story.
Do you feel comfortable talking about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what happened, I think why it's important to career. When I was late in pregnancy, so this is April 2015, I was 38 weeks pregnant and I went for checkup and they told me the heartbeat had stopped. And so it's my first pregnancy. I was a little girl. Here I am about a week or two out from delivery, and there was no signs leading up to it. I think at that moment, I was sitting in the OB office and I was waiting for my husband. He's a filmmaker. He runs a production company now, but he was on set up near Central Park at the time. We were in New York. I was down in Soho. And I was waiting for him to crawl through New York traffic and be with me. And I remember looking at this chart, and it was a chart of the process chart of how a baby is born from implantation all the way through the fetal life cycle. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go through this all over again. Here I am, it's like being at the finish line of a marathon and I'm told to go back to the start. Yeah. And that moment was, in my mind, I also realized this is probably gonna be my personal 9/11. This is gonna be a really big before and after in my life. And before that moment, I had been so go, and so type A, competitive, career, running marathons. And I actually didn't know how I was going to fit motherhood into my life. And I don't share that, there's a part of me that maybe even blamed myself for it and thought, oh, because you were so type A and so work-oriented, this happened. And I've shaken that. But the lesson that I've taken with me is really one of perspective. And I think had that not happened, I might be in the C-suite. I might have a couple of nannies. I might have someone doing my laundry and cooking my food, but that experience taught me just how powerful and how special and how fleeting it is to have your children. And this role of motherhood is really important. And having to go through grief and then decide, there's a whole other side topic we can talk about here, but to decide to be joyful and from a place of joy, invite motherhood back into my life and integrate it in. The integration hasn't been perfect in practice, but the deep, deep knowing of the importance of the role has always been there. And had it not been for that experience, I could easily take it for granted and chase money and title instead of what I would call wholeness. Thank you for asking about that, tying it in.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It is very important. And thank you for sharing with us. And in some ways, that is how we reconnected, because you were in DC a couple years after law school. I was still seeing you. Then you went up to New York. We weren't necessarily in touch, but you started posting a lot more through that time period. You were at the time the first person that I had known that had happened to. Sadly, now I can name many more people. And I had my first baby by then. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But you were always so open about like the grieving process, the recovery process, and brought out like this really human side. And I think that's when I would send you messages occasionally, when you would post something, I was like, okay, that really resonated. So I just hope that like in that process, and then you being very open and vulnerable, hopefully you felt that brought more people into your life, because it certainly reconnected me to you at that time.
Thank you. Yeah. And I know the exact post. It's when I jumped in the snow. And there was Megan Akatu, and like, oh, she's back in my life. Isn't that interesting? I'm glad you said that, because it's not just about perspective. It's about truth sharing and truth telling. And when I had shared that story, hundreds of women found me on the internet. My story got published. It got shared here and there. I had to ignore it. It's a lot to get, right? I can't always dip into that heaviness of I'm losing a baby or I lost a baby. But when I did tap into it months later, I got on a plane one day and I opened up my private messages in Facebook, and I had dozens and dozens of messages from women who said, like, thank you for sharing your story. And the messages varied from something as far back as like 30 years ago, I lost a baby and nobody talked about it then. So thank you for talking about it. I feel seen. All the way to it just happened to me. It's fresh and I'm finding, power in talking to other women. All the way to I read your story, got an exam and did kit counting and realized I had a cord accident we induced and it saved my baby. So,
gosh.
Yeah. And that experience showed me it's so much more powerful to tell your truth, as hard as it is, because you're going to help someone. Hiding it doesn't do anything. It creates aloneness and distance and separation. But when we share and we name the things, the systems, the experiences, what's happening to our bodies, the injustices, the grief that we share, the joy on the other side of it, there's a magnitude in that for other women.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, when we see positive examples of women in the workforce also being in their wholeness, how are women doing that? I'm curious to your thoughts, because you've been in so many different organizations. I'm curious what you've seen over your time.
I've been in male founder organizations my entire career. I have zero experience working in a female founder organization. And I've also been in the hustle culture. So think about it. My CEOs were like, I'm trying to think, Jeff Bezos' successor, Andy Jassy, my most recent ultimate CEO. Amazon owned Whole Foods. We had Mark Zuckerberg before that. We had Rod Favren, a great CEO, local to Austin. Mac McLarty was a CEO. He was the former chief of staff for Bill Clinton. What other CEOs? So I've worked for men in male founder, Ogilvy, founded by David Ogilvy. I could go back and on and on and on and on and on. So, and I think most women probably have this experience. So who are the women who are really happy inside of corporate structures? The ones who have support. I would say executives who have a partner who has taken a back seat in his career to support her. They have family around them. They have family and systems and structures where they're not outsourcing their parenting. It's still within their DNA. It's close family, right? It's a mother, it's a parent, it's something close, sometimes a live-in nanny. Still, their kids are still close. So that's where I've seen it work. And I have very few examples of that. On the converse, what I can say is no longer is that my world. I believe that when you make a decision and you vibrate at a certain frequency, you find your people. So that's one thing happening right now. I'm finding more women who are not in those structures. And physically, I live in East Austin in a neighborhood where there's just a lot of entrepreneurs. So again, go to the stats. Only 33% of female full-time employees, knowledge workers, are satisfied with their careers and their skills progression, and only 31% report being satisfied with career progression and pay. This is from the Upwork Research Institute. The US pay gap, but in these, like, women are still earning 81 cents on the dollar compared to men. But when you look at freelancers, those numbers go up. So the range of happiness and satisfaction and pay from 31 to 33% goes up to 41 to 43% for freelancers. I think the answer is not in corporate structures, because I do think they're just too masculine. I think that there's an answer in freedom that comes with entrepreneurship and freelancing. And I think the sweet spot is like a woman independently earning under $5 million. Probably, like, even I would say 1 to 5 or under. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, only 4% of companies ever reach the $1 million mark. I know once you're at that, you want to get to the 10 to 20 million, right? It tapers off. It's like 10% of that 4%. And then, as you know, like only 2% of VC-backed companies are women-owned. And so at a certain level of wealth, you're just back in it, and you're back in the inequity, and you're in the game, and you're in the male systems. So I think that for me, it's like, it's not working in a corporate structure. It's not the hustle VC for like the 10 to $20 million company. It's somewhere in the independent wealth creation, doing what makes you happy.
Yes. Well, and go back to the creativity that we were talking about in cooking. Like, there's so much creativity in being a founder. And I personally have found that to be more energizing than I could have ever imagined. And that's what, that gets me up every morning. I find it to be so fun.
I mean, 100%. And creativity, and I don't mean this by gender, it's a very feminine gift. Like creativity is, I think it's, if we were to talk to a yogi who knows more than me about the body, they would say it's in the sacral chakra, which is like where your sexuality is, and it's the feminine chakra, the root chakra is the man, all these things. But I'm not going to talk about things that I don't know about, but I am a little bit, because I feel those things, right? Like, I do feel when we lean into our creativity, there's a good energy that flows from it. And I'll say too, something that's like maybe unrelatable for most of this audience, but I'll share transparently. I'm married to a creative who has built a business off of creativity quite successfully and quite well. And he did it not by leaning into the male structures and systems, but those systems and structures and ways of working certainly help scale it. But the heart of the business is creativity and community and supporting creatives. So while I have not done that myself, I've seen how leaning into creativity can really create a successful business and good quality of life where you're aligned with what you do. And I've been lucky to have that as an example of creativity and authenticity.
Yeah. Beautiful. What advice would you give to high achieving women who are in the workforce, as far as like, how do they show up powerfully and with impact, but also be with themselves?
So good advice. How they can show up powerfully and be themselves. Megan, I wish I had this figured out. I really do. I think you just need to know, like, listen to your body, listen to an intuitive yes and an intuitive no. And don't do the things that you're a no for. And the reason is because if you keep doing the things you're a no for, your body is in constant override and it will show up. And you'll develop a negative compensatory strategy, right? Like, you'll stop working out. You'll sit more. Your hormones are off. So now you have to go balance your hormones when really maybe you should have just like taken some time to go for a walk and exercise. So like, don't override your body. Do the things that you need to do to feel whole. And if there's something that you can change in the workforce, maybe it's a maternity policy and there's a green light and that helps you stay, change it. But if there's something you cannot change, like a culture of toxic masculinity that is overtly sexist towards women, really make that decision to leave. You have that choice. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have that choice.
I love that though, if you even like stay with your body, like do the things that you know to do to best support you first. And then you'll have a better idea of what's a yes or no. And then you can navigate from there.
Yeah. And seek what feels correct. And I would say, do your due diligence. If I could give an earlier version of myself advice, I would say like, really do your due diligence and vet them. We always think that we need to be good enough for a job, and we don't do the job of vetting, and I'm guilty of this. And there's very simple things you can ask to see if this is an environment that supports women or not. And you would be surprised how many very grown-up multi-billion-dollar companies still do not have favorable maternal care policies or maternity leave or sick days or family sick days. So don't take for granted or assume that because a company is established that it has the basic processes and systems that support women. Like, do your due diligence, ask those questions, and if you can't, and then make the choice for you that is best. But get the knowledge first. Don't make the assumption that they're going to be able to just out of the gate support women because they have a certain level of revenue. Revenue doesn't equal supporting women in their bodies.
Love that. Love that. Anything that you feel like you have not said that has been on your mind throughout this conversation?
I've been dancing around this space of what's the right sweet spot, we'll call it. What's the sweet spot of happiness for working mothers? Because we have all of these extremes. Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. So one is like, there's the extreme of like, okay, I'm just not going to work. And some women are totally happy with that. And then all the way on the other extreme, you have the woman rising the corporate ladder, overriding her body, chasing the wealth and outsourcing the parenting and not feeling really good about the motherhood role. And so there's like the full mother, the full career person. And so I think the sweet spot is that integration of the two. And I think it's not easy. And when you're the full mother, what part of your wholeness are you giving up? What part of your gifts could you invite back in? And maybe it's not money earning, but you need to still feel worthy and valuable and complete. And if you don't have to work, God bless you. Maybe you want to write or paint or cook. What is the creation that you need to do to feel whole? And then to that burned out, overworked corporate mom, what do you need to invite in to feel a connection to your creativity, to softness, to the parts of you that you've had to squish and compartmentalize during the day? I had to put my whole self into that little tiny moment in the dark in my garage riding my spin bike.
Yeah.
Where can you build in time? And I'm not saying time to go feed the kids and do all the things and Like if you can outsource that at that level of wealth, great. But where can you invite in more authenticity and creativity and inspiration, even if it's just a walk in nature?
Right. Yeah.
That's like one thing. And then the other sweet spot, I don't know, I think it's interesting that in the past year, 49% of all new businesses are women owned. We have more women starting businesses than ever before. And if you think about it, a couple years ago, it's like we had the great quit of these women. And now that's not the end of the story. And that's what's so cool. It's like women are actually not saying we're victims of the system. We're writing our next chapter, and that chapter looks like business ownership. And most of these businesses, 96% in fact, will never make $1 million. And that is okay. You don't need to make $1 million a year to be happy. You can just do what gives you joy. Yes. And so when I think about like what the word right now is portfolio career, I'm sure the word will change, but put a slice in there that sure makes money, but just keep thinking about evolving it and put some stuff in there that lights you up, because that's really our only job, is just to be lit up and be joyful and be happy and create. So I have in my portfolio, to unveil that a little bit, have consulting. It didn't really light me up. Coaching does. creating a bigger pie slice for that. One of my pie slices is motherhood. That's just part of it, right? I can't erase that pie slice. I don't get paid for it, but it's in there. It's a job. And another one is coaching founders through the Rise and Build Collective and building this community of women. And the most recent pie slice, which we're just playing with right now, is my husband and I bought this Japanese mini key truck, and we want to have a mobile food vendor license and start selling coffee. We have a whole dream of what this could be. And so I think it's just about like having fun and looking at everything as like you're just designing your life and inviting in different pieces of fun and aliveness. And then if something brings you joy and it takes off and it brings others joy, listen to that, lean into it, have fun. But yeah, you don't have to go make $1 million. Take that pressure off, give yourself a permission slip of joy and play and creativity.
Yes. Well, and even what I hear when you say that of like, there is freedom in income and money, but there's also freedom in time and there's freedom in energy. What is that triad, three-legged stool of like, am I willing to, give up all my time in order to make $1 bazillion, right? Or am I okay being at a lower amount, but then I have, I'm around, let's say when my kids get home from school, or I have like the energy to be present with them. And so it's all in a balance, as is everything, but that we can more assert what that balance is for each of us.
100%. It's like, what do I actually need? And I think back to this moment early in my career, and I volunteered on a mission trip to go build a school in Chilca, Peru. And on these mission trips, you always think that you're going to go save the people. You're an American with a certain status, socioeconomic status, and you go there and you think you're going to go to this country and build the thing and bring your money and save those people. And when you go there, invariably what happens is you realize that you might have wealth on paper, but you're lacking soul wealth, and that the people in these communities are actually joyful and happy and have what they need, and they don't have that wealth on paper. And there was a moment when we went to a baby shower in this really poor, dirt floor, chickens running everywhere, no doors kind of a place. And under the full moon, we had a baby shower for one of the women, and the other women had cooked. They had brought used clothing that they washed, handmade gifts, and it was so simple and so abundant. Like there was nothing anybody needed there.
Yeah.
So think
yes,
wealth and abundance. And I've been really circling around with that. And when I catch myself doing the like, okay, go build it and chase the thing, and now you're going to grow it and find the funding and super speed, Kelly, whatever that part of me is, when I look around my home and I say like, I have enough, in fact, too much, or cleaning things out all the time. I have what I need in my marriage. Everyone is perfect, just as in their imperfection. My kids are perfect in their imperfection. They have what they need. We always have food on the table, clothing on our bodies. We have enough cars, enough vacations, enough money in the bank. Like we have enough. We have enough. But yeah, I've been thinking about that one a lot. I'm reading Lynn Twist's The Soul of Money. Can't believe I haven't read it before. It's been on my shelf. It's amazing. And she writes about abundance and scarcity. And she writes about a moment when she was coaching some of the wealthiest women who were all Microsoft executives. They were in their mid to late 30s, and on average, they made about $10 million. And she came to talk to them about the Hunger Project and show photos of women in Africa who didn't have food and different videos. And she really wanted to connect these two groups of women. And so she saw that as her role. And when she brought the stories of the poor women in Africa to the executives in Microsoft, there was this sort of like unraveling that had happened with them, and they had realized how disconnected they were from the earth, from food, from their bodies, from their families, nature, their communities. They spent most of their lives on screens. They might have come home at 9:00 at night, had a quick meal with their husbands. Their kids were already in bed. They woke up, were at work by 7:30. Saturdays they went to the office, and Sundays they were on their screens. They had abundant wealth and no freedom. And after Lynn connected them with these women, they all unraveled and changed their ways. They took different roles, different relationships with work, left the company, quit, joined the philanthropic arm of Microsoft or other philanthropic organizations, and leaned out of that structure. So I thought that story was really powerful to share and so relevant. around chasing the wrong.
Yes. Well, and even when you're scanning your life in your home and you're like, we have enough, and we don't need to get into a whole thing about imposter syndrome right now. I think it is fairly natural to be like, well, somebody else knows more, or like somebody's smarter, somebody else has the answer. And just this constant outsourcing of authority. And it could even be with wealth too. And when we can really scan and be in gratitude for what we have, and then you go back to the joy that you were talking about, there's so much power in seeing that joy and experiencing that joy and knowing that you have that. And it's not always, the next promotion, but I even think about people second guessing themselves, like in meetings, being like, well, should I have said that? Should I have not said that? Yeah. Just be like, and I was just here and I did the best I can. Like, it was enough. I did enough.
I did enough. Oh, there's so much. I love that you said the word power, and there really is a power in it, because when you have enough, nobody can hold power over you. Companies love to hire the hungry person, right? But what about the satiated person?
Yeah.
Right? We can't hold power over a woman who is satiated, because if she's satiated, she doesn't need us. She doesn't need our money, our title, our office. She's fine. And that woman is the woman who knows her value and her worth and what she brings into the room, and the confidence and the competence that she adds. That is not someone who's asking permission and asking to be paid and asking to take up space. Like, she's just owning the space, and she's not sitting there trying to grab and beg on her knees for something.
Correct.
And that's real power.
Right. Because she knows. You're speaking to my soul right there. Because you're right, there is real power. And that's also its own self-work of building that foundational self-trust, self-confidence. There's layers to that, because our society is really built on, it's not enough. We always need more. We need a bigger house. We need more money. We need more vacations. And you're right. When we can sit in that foundational power and in that, like, I am satiated, I have everything I need, and this company's not going to add or detract from how I show up. Do you think organizations purposely hire hungry people? Do you think they're intimidated by satiated people? And I guess even how often are we coming across satiated people? Let's start there, maybe.
Oh my gosh, who's satiated asking for a job? Maybe the satiated people are the CEOs. Maybe they're the ones doing the hiring. I don't know. I've never worked in recruiting, and I don't know that would be a specific profile, but I have worked inside of companies where there were certain demographics that would lead you to believe that the person was hungry. And it could be something like, their culture is known for being a hustler. I would say I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, but I have worked inside companies where every person did have like an air of desperation on them, and the founder had a power over them because of it. And I found it not shocking, disarming, disturbing that there were that many people who were happy to hand their free will over. And then I think hunger, like ambition, is also something that companies can use in their favor. I remember once at a big tech company, I asked an icebreaker question. It was like, well, how much money would you need to leave? Like, what's your exit number? And everybody was like, millions of dollars. Well, that's a carrot that company's going to hang over. And now I know those employees are going to be there for a long time. And I was like, $100,000. Because I know if I have access to $100K cash at any time, I can go start something, invest it, and grow. I actually don't need $1 million to be free.
Go back to the being satiated. You know exactly what you need. And then go back to your confidence and competence. You can just go start something. You know that.
Yeah.
So it's a different dynamic.
Yeah. I don't know if it's at the company's hire for that, right? But I think we victimize ourselves.
And then what I hear you say is like the true freedom is in gratitude and joy, and in these small moments with our family. Like, that's where it comes from, and not in the paycheck, as much as we're led to believe that.
Yeah, and Megan, you answered the question that I couldn't, which is, can it ever exist? Can this, I forget what the word empowered woman being happy in her job exist in a corporate structure? Okay. I think it has to exist within us first. And I'm not saying that I did that. Otherwise, I would have found it.
Yes, that is where the power is. It starts with us.
Yeah, it starts with us. And so I don't give advice out, not to young people, unless they come seeking it from me. And so I recently was speaking with a cousin of mine who's younger, and she sought advice from me. She was really torn. Should I be a lawyer? Should I go work in Hollywood? And I was like, well, close your eyes. Like, what color do you see when you're in Hollywood? And she's like, I see like yellow and blue. And those are my happy colors. I'm like, well, what do you see when you're in a law firm, like filing papers this summer? She's like, it's really red. Danger, danger. And so the last thing I think I'd say is like, yeah, it starts with you and really listening to your body and tuning in. And you can go seek advice from other people. But what I hope those people tell you is to like go back to yourself and go to your body. And what's the connection that you have with your own body and your rhythm and work, and where do you light up, and where do you see your version of yellow and blue? And when you see a red, oh honey, that is a red flag. Shut that down fast.
There's just so much wisdom in our bodies, and we've been, our society is built on just intellect, pushing through. And there's so many keys when we can slow down enough to listen. And to your point, I hope that more people are encouraging others to go back into their bodies.
There's so many. My body was a no in feeling before my brain had the understanding and before my mouth had the words. And I am a person who has a very strong connection from my body. I'm an athlete. I'm a mother. Like, I have a strong connection, and there's so much wisdom in the body. And I have left things before I even had the words, right? I had a consciousness of a no, but I didn't know exactly why. And every time I've been right, except for the one time that I took a job that you told me not to because you had the red flag in your body and you ended up being right. You felt the red flag. So there's sometimes that we can't even verbalize it, but trust the feeling, because our bodies will never lead us in the wrong direction.
Yes. Well, and I had wanted to say this. Kelly is the reason how I found my coaching company. So she had posted that she was leaving Meta to go be a coach. And I had just heard intuitively, you need to go be a coach. But I didn't even know what that was. This is a huge part of my story. I didn't know what it was. And so I texted her and I was like, I just heard I was supposed to do this, but I don't know what this means. And you and I got on a call a couple days later. We were on the phone for 90 minutes. I have all these pages of notes. So that's how I found my coaching school. And Kelly is an amazing strategist. She's still someone I run a lot of ideas past, because you have this ability to kind of just think in frameworks and make it very clear. But in her mastermind with these other female founders, you really hold such a beautiful container for these women to be themselves. And I think it just brings together your ability to coach, but also all your knowledge that you have on growth and founding companies. So I really appreciate being in that space on a regular basis. Are you ready for a couple quick fire questions?
Sure.
All right, Kelly, what does feminine leadership mean to you?
Ooh, feminine leadership to me, listening to your body. Listening to your body, not overriding it, and showing up authentically.
Beautiful for everything that we talked about today. What is the Kelly secret sauce?
Don't hold back. Don't hold back. There's so many untruths in this world. We are just here to speak our truth. Speak your truth. Don't hold back, and you'll find your truth, and you'll find alignment and joy and fulfillment.
What are you reading or listening to right now?
Well, I told you I'm reading Lynn Twist's The Soul of Money, and it's about creating abundant wealth. And the secret, the aha, not to give it away, is that it's not the dollars in your bank account. It's living from a place of abundance and known, felt abundance.
So good.
And I'm so glad you asked me right now.
It's going to change?
Oh, yeah. I have so many half-read and unfinished books. And if you said to me, what have you just finished? I'd be like, Megan, I start so many books. Thank you for this time. This was so fun. I so appreciate you. And anyone who gets to work with you is just so lucky. And I always get an upgrade from our conversations. And I'm probably going to have to go journal and debrief on this one now, because being in connection with you always gives me something new. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your openness. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for listening today. I would really, really appreciate it if you left comments and sent in a review. This really helps me understand what resonated with you so I can continue to create more episodes that speak to you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.